Hello everybody and welcome to the Human Echoes Rundown. This week we're taking on Resident Evil, the final chapter. As you can tell from the title, this is in the series which includes Banshee Chapter, John Wick Chapter 2, and Insidious Chapter 3. I'm not what you would call a massive fan of this franchise. I caught the first 3 or maybe 4. I fell off, I know for sure, at Afterlife, whichever number that one was. And this touts itself as the final climactic wrapping up all the loose pieces of the series. So I feel like I was a little bit lost. However, I went and read some comments from people who are big fans of the franchise, and it seems like they were kinda lost too. To the movie's credit, though, it spends a lot of time at the very opening of the movie trying to get you up to speed with what is going on in this world. And this is maybe the first flaw in the film. Anytime you start off with an info dump, it's bad news. Unless you're Star Wars. If you start with voiceover or like lots and lots of text telling you what was happening in the movie, that's a big red flag that there's not real strong writing going on. And this in particular is so convoluted. There's an artificial intelligence being created from the girl who also was part of creating the beginning of the virus, and her dad was there, and then her dad got double-crossed, and now she's a computer, and she's also a real person apparently, and also there's clones and stuff, and it's just insanity. However, you do kind of need some of it to set up the stuff that happens at the end. And as someone who has casually seen several of the films and just sort of hopped on here at the end to see what was going on, it's not terrible. The exposition does feel very thick at the beginning, but catching you up to speed and then just sort of diving into the action and letting the rest of the events of the movie play out as they will really feels like the right move for this. It's the best move that you can have in a series that's had artificial intelligence and clones and backstabbing with giant zombie virus things that it's not exactly zombies because they also turn people into monsters, and it's sort of complicated how everything's going, and they just sort of give you a refresher off the top. It's not the most efficient storytelling in the world, but it is surprisingly effective at getting you into the action. From a storytelling perspective, the other problem with this movie is that there's this device that's introduced very early in the film that's a countdown clock. It's a specific amount of time that's remaining for our hero, Alice, played by Milla Jovovich, to complete her mission. What is it that's going to happen when this clock runs out? According to the AI that gives it to her, everybody on Earth dies. No specific reason why, no exact mechanic given why, just the defenses are failing, and at that exact time, all of the human strongholds that are left in the world, all 4,000 and some odd people that are left after the zombie virus has raged through the globe, that's it. That's when everybody gets wiped out. And let me tell you, that's a real tough pill to swallow, because we don't see any of that happening. Like, we do meet up with an enclave of humans that's holding off the zombies and then they have a big action fight, and that's all fine and good and fun. But there's not a sense that, man, when that clock runs down, these people will definitely be dead. We just have to go on the word of the AI for it. We don't have any cutaways to people getting overrun or defenses slowly being beaten down or anything. It's just a completely artificial countdown. It's impossible to believe on any level. Okay? There's no reason why 4,000 some odd people in this exact amount of time are going to end up dead. So those are your two big problems with the film. You can also say that character-wise, I mean, I don't know why you would be going to this movie to see deep and very, like, heavily drawn characters, but if you were, they're not, okay? The characters are pretty shallow. They're all essentially action heroes / superheroes. Some of them are good, and some of them are bad, and that's all the characterization that you have. The odds are, though, that you're not going to this movie for a great story. You're probably not going for deep, insightful characters. You're probably, if you're like me, going into this looking for action. Because that's what the trailer promises you, right? It's nonstop monster killing, zombie hunting, Umbrella Corporation invading action. And the movie delivers a lot of that. I mean, there is every kind of action scene you can imagine. There's giant monsters being, like, attacked by vehicles. There's hordes of zombies being, fought off by people running on foot behind another vehicle. There's tower defense stuff. There's people fighting on top of a vehicle. There's people fighting inside of a, cool office space. There's, traps and stuff inside the Umbrella Corporation, and you, like, build up tension and there's stuff happening. And the sheer amount and variety of different things this movie does, I can't think of an action trope that it doesn't pull, okay? It's just insanity how much stuff it throws at you. And that's almost great. Okay, if you go to the movie expecting that, you could almost love this. I was almost able to love this on those terms. Again, as someone who's not a fan of the franchise, who didn't have any expectations of, and the weight of whatever came before and continuity and all that stuff, just accepting this movie essentially as a standalone, and a little bit of having seen the first one, you get the laser hallway like you see in the trailer, kind of going back to some stuff you'd have before, but essentially looking for a zombie action thriller, this almost made it. It was that close to being not perfect, but in that sort of popcorny action, over the top, we're throwing everything at you, and yeah, some of the CG isn't great, but it's good enough if you're not, like, really a nitpicker and really willing to have some popcorn fun. Here's the Achilles heel. Here is the major, like, defining flaw of this movie, I would say. If you're willing to accept it on all of its other terms, and the sort of stupid storytelling, and the lack of characterization, really, and all the science fiction-y clones and everything like that, if you're okay with that stuff, as I was, and you're going and you just want to have a popcorn action fun time, here's what kills the movie. Editing. Editing is, in this movie, is so frenetic. I couldn't tell what was happening. And I know that's a common complaint, but I swear there were some scenes with edits that were 2 frames long. Listen, I'm not against a fast-paced edit at certain times. I understand that there's a value to that. There's a kinetic energy to that. But at some point, I want to be able to drink it in. I want to see what's happening. I'm there. I'm on board for the action. I'm on board for the silliness and the monsters and the cool design. I didn't even talk about, there's so many cool monster designs in this. Flying monsters and monsters with giant, like, teeth sticking out everywhere, dog monsters and sort of classic zombies and, like, zombies that are half pulled apart and hanging from the ceiling. It's all these different kind of things, and half the time you can't see it because they won't stay on one shot for more than half a second. And that is so frustrating. Okay, I understand that, like, doing a real long take of a fight means that you really have to, like, heavily choreograph. I get that. Not everybody's Jackie Chan. Not everybody can do the John Wick thing. It's understandable to a point that we have some cuts around to give the actors who may not be great fighters. Maybe that's because of ability, maybe that's because of laziness, but for whatever reason, yes, there are going to be limitations, but this is beyond that. This is beyond excessive. You can show like a hit or two happening without cutting to both people within 5 times, but like in the space of the punch. It's just confusing. And especially for it to happen through the whole movie. The whole movie. It kills the enjoyment. It kills the... Like, these are some... I conceptually very interesting ideas for action scenes. It's essentially... I mean, you're really on action scene, action scene, action scene, a little bit of exposition, action, 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 maybe rest, action, 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 until the very end. And then there's some reveal-y type stuff that happens where they explain things. And I like that, by the way. I like the stuff that went down at the end, more or less, within the frameworks of the fiction as they had presented it within this movie. But the editing just left so much to be desired. I can't even, coming out of it, even still, even so, I can't say that I hated it. I can't say that I disliked it. I left with kind of a good feeling, but I almost could have really dug this on a stupid popcorn-y level, on its terms, right? On the terms of this weird soap opera, clone saga, AI battle stuff that we have going on. I could have got on board with that, but the editing just kept it from being great on those terms. I don't remember, maybe it's always been this way for Resident Evil. As I said, it's been a while since I've seen the other films. Maybe they all had the same problems, but it was just disappointing because it was this close. It was this close to being awesome popcorn action, and that editing just stabbed it right in the back. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on Resident Evil, the final chapter. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, click that subscribe button, give us a like. We've got a lot of other cool stuff on this channel. I'm Albert Berg, and I'll see you next time with more of the Human Echoes Rundown.